What's going on today? Today we are going to talk about the United Football League. Yesterday we talked a little about MLB. Opening day is today. Hope you get to go out and watch a little bit of baseball. But we do have some football back, and it is the United Football League. It is a spring league. It has been a very big development league for some really good players, some really talented players. This league means a lot to me because I love to see these guys get a second chance at things, and it looks like that the UFL is here to stay. I know there's a current thing going on. Hopefully that all gets worked out. I don't know all about that, it's above my pay grade. I'm just going to be honest with you. But that being said, I want to quickly talk about some of these teams, as I do have a feeling that some of them will be of utmost importance. First up, Birmingham Stallions, right here. This is the current reigning and defending champions of the UFL, head coached by Skip Holtz. And to be honest with you, looking through all the rosters, they look to have the most talented one. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to be absolutely the case. They've won the last 30 if you go all the way back to the USFL. But the UFL has a lot of talent, a lot of pretty good coaches, a lot of really good players trying to make their way back into the NFL. As far as I know, it looks like Matt Corral is going to be the starting quarterback. I understand they're going to run with two. I don't know how long that will last. But I know of Matt Corral. Matt Corral was a very good quarterback in college. He didn't really get to pan out in the NFL. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if the Panthers just didn't see it in him. Whatever the case. But do I expect him to be one of the better quarterbacks in the UFL? Abso-freaking-lutely. And I explain that because we're going to the Houston Roughnecks. They are coached by, looks like Curtis Johnson. Now, the Houston Roughnecks were the worst team in the league last season. And looking through the roster, there were not a lot of noticeable names. But again, this is spring football. These guys are trying to make a name for themselves to get back into the NFL if they possibly can. Or they're really going to enjoy what they're doing over here. We don't quite know. But I do expect Houston to make a couple more jumps up. But unfortunately, it's not looking very positive for them. Things were a little rough for them just last season. All I can say is we'll see on that one. Going right over to the Memphis Showboats. Now, Memphis Showboats have already had a little bit of trouble as their head coach has decided to go away due to personal reasons, and he will be replaced by Jim Turner. The original coach was Ken Wisenhunt, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. That is a little upsetting, but at the same time, life moves on. I believe I saw cornerback Eric Garrar on their team. He used to play for the Tennessee Titans, so I am very aware of him. They have a very young team. In fact, there were not a lot of players on there that I was, ready to write home about that I knew. But I think the Showboat should be okay this year. I believe they only won 4 out of their 10 games last season, so that is not really a great thing to go off of. But I do expect them to be okay. I don't know where to expect them to be. The Michigan Panthers. Now, the Michigan Panthers are coached by former NFL head coach Mike Nolan. Mike Nolan used to coach the San Francisco 49ers. And honestly, if you can get some of these former NFL guys, that's going to be incredibly good for these young talents. We talked about Skip Holtz. He unfortunately wasn't really a big NFL coach, but he was a college coach for a very long time at Louisiana Tech, Connecticut, and I believe he even coached the USF Bulls for a little while. I could be completely wrong on that one. But when it comes to the Michigan Panthers, we already saw what a little bit of help can do for them, right? Jake Bates has been picked up into the NFL, ended up having a really spectacular season with the Detroit Lions, and that was off of a lot of what he did in the UFL last season. So I'm very excited to see what Michigan is going to be able to do. They were a 7-3 team last year. They were a very good football team. You could probably expect them to pick up right where they left off. And, yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't have any bad hopes for them, right? Should be okay. I mean, why would you not believe in them? They had a good year last year. Going over to the XFL conference, which I still don't really understand because If I remember correctly, the Houston Roughnecks were in the XFL, but yeah, I'll just shut up on that one. The Arlington Renegades, they are coached by Bob Stoops, who coached for Oklahoma for a long time, if I remember correctly. That team is going to be led by Luis Perez. More than likely, he has been a very good quarterback for them. I know for a fact Luis Perez was the one that won them the XFL championship when it returned after the tumultuous. I probably said that word completely wrong, to be honest with you. After the really bad season that was the 2020 season, it took a few years to come back. The XFL came back, and the Renegades ended up winning with the help of quarterback Luis Perez. I'm not familiar with how they did last year. I believe they were a middle of the road team because I believe it was the Brahmas and Battlehawks that represented over there. You know, the thing is though, is I've already talked about it like 2 or 3 times now, and this is spring football. We're gonna see people break out, so I don't know where to expect these guys. But with teams like the DC Defenders, the Memphis Showboats, those two teams have both lost their coach. We're gonna talk about the DC here in a second. You never know. You never know. Renegades could be right back in the swing of things. I know the Brahmas have a very good head coach, and Wade Phillips and the Battlehawks and Anthony Beck have been a very tough team for the last few years. In fact, I would be a Battlehawks fan, but I'm going to go with the Showboats because I like Tennessee teams, and they're a Tennessee team. The DC Defenders. So their head coach, Reggie Barlow, he left to go coach the Tennessee State because Eddie George got the head coaching offer from Bowling Green, the Bowling Green Falcons. So Reggie Barlow has decided to leave, and he will be replaced by their defensive backs coach, which is Shannon Harris. I don't completely know if they have Jordan Teamu on their team. I wrote him down. I want to make sure I wrote him down. In fact, why not? Let's go look him up real quick, and we'll go right back to it. The DC Defenders. Now, DeAndre Baker is also on this team, a former first round pick. We can also talk about Damon Arnett in that case, both former first round picks that are here. So you should expect them to be pretty dang good football players on this. As we go through this team, I wanted to kind of see if they had Jordan Teamu because I remember Jordan Teamu very much so for DC Defenders back when he played in the XFL. I don't think I'm quite seeing him, so maybe that isn't. Oh, yes, he is. It's good to see Jordan Teamu back. I'm a big supporter of his. When the XFL was a thing back in 2020, he was the guy that I kind of left being the most impressed by. He unfortunately didn't end up doing too much in the NFL, so that's why probably he's back. But yeah, I think that he's going to be a really big difference maker for this team. I expect him to be pretty good at football. I don't the thing is that without a head coach, and I think the Showboats are in this same case, it's kind of hard to know, right off tops, what you think's going to happen. The San Antonio Brahmas. Now, they have head coach Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips was a former head coach in the NFL, just like Mike Nolan was, and Ken Wisenhunt for that matter. He was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys for quite a while, and I have no reason not to believe that he's going to do a really good job over there in San Antonio. If I remember just correctly, we'll go right back to this. We'll take a quick look at the teams. Now, I believe their quarterback is going to be Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond was a guy that when he came out of college, I expected a lot out of. So I have no reason to not believe that he's going to be good. If that is absolutely the case, I see Kevin Hogan there, so I do believe that this will be Kellen Mond that is the quarterback over here. Also, they have Racy McMath, former Tennessee Titan. That's another pretty good name right there, yeah. So Jordan Teamu, I just talked about Jordan Teamu. Shut up, Cody. No, Kellen Mond. I had a lot of high hopes for him coming out of college, so seeing him in the UFL, that's going to be incredibly good. I certainly hope to see that. I certainly hope that they do well because, that'd be really cool to see. The last team that we're going to talk about before we dive into schedules, predictions, all that kind of fun stuff is the St. Louis Battlehawks, coached by Anthony Becht. Anthony Becht has been the head coach several times at this point. He was the head coach during the XFL years and the UFL years. He's been coaching some pretty good football over here. We're going to quickly go through their team just real quick. Rodrigo Blankenship was a kicker in the NFL. Fortunately, things just did not work out for him. Glad to see that he's back. Hakeem Butler, James Bostic, guys I've definitely seen play some football before. Max Duggan, another one right here, and I was hoping to get to him. Max Duggan is a quarterback that I had a lot of high hopes for out of TCU. He unfortunately did not pan out in the NFL, kind of like Kellen Mond. But I think that if he goes out there and plays really good ball, we'll see him back. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of names here that I've actually very much heard of. So, and that's the exciting part about watching this, is that I really am excited to see what the UFL brings this season just off of the players that I know of. Like I've talked about Akeem Butler, I talked about Max Duggan, Rodrigo Blankenship, Jordan Teamu, all these guys. Marty Rogers. That's exciting to get back into the things. Now, real quick, we're gonna do some predictions as we're gonna go over the Week 1 schedule. The St. Louis Battlehawks are playing the Houston Roughnecks. Now, like I said, the Roughnecks had a rough season last year. So I'm going to lock in with the St. Louis Battlehawks on this one. I like Anthony Becht. His teams always play very good. I can't. It's kind of interesting to see what the team's going to look like, especially without quarterback AJ McCarron, who had been the quarterback for quite a while over there. So I'm very excited to see what the Battlehawks do, but I'm gonna go with the Battlehawks on that one. San Antonio Brahmas versus Arlington Renegades. That one is also a very exciting football game, as it is two very experienced head coaches going against each other. I'm going to stick with the San Antonio Brahmas. I definitely could be wrong on this one, but I'm definitely going to lock them in. In fact, I'm not going to have any home teams from what it looks like after I look at this, because we're going over to the Michigan Panthers versus the Memphis Showboats. Again, going against a coaching change. So right now, for me to believe in Memphis, it's going to be a little bit tough. I think it's going to take them a little bit of time to really get things formatted. At least they had a little bit of time to get things going. But unfortunately, a coaching change like that can make the big difference here. So I'm going to go with the Michigan Panthers on this one. And then the last one, I'm going to go with the Birmingham Stallions. I think they will be a very good football team because they are coached by one of the most experienced coaches in the league. Skip Holtz, he obviously was not an NFL coach, but he coached for so long in college that you would just expect his teams to come out and be very good. He looks to have the most talent on his team. I'm going to stick with the Birmingham Stallions. And with that being said, I think that's going to be it for our UFL preview and predictions for Week 1. I hope you did enjoy it while you could. I want you to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let me know how you thought. I hope you have a great day.